Cool, guys. As you guys are aware that in regards to MAC 3761, right? So after this test, which you guys are going to write, all right? So they'll be coming now finance, all right? So this is costing. So after costing, there comes finance. So it is important that you keep track, all right, of your costing content, because now costing will be examined again later during the year, that is in October. So which is with the final exam. So imagine now, right, the work that you have done now, right, they're going to put it on hold, right, until October. So I strongly advise you that you make notes for yourself, all right, because one thing that I've realized is most guys, they tend to forget the first semester work, right? And then because now in semester 2, they were looking at finance side of the work. So everyone will be fresh on the finance, but we forgot on the costing. So to make better for yourself, make notes, all right, on each and every topic that you did on costing. And also don't forget, right, when you get a chance, as we covering the finance side, also run through a little bit of questions on the costing side. All right. But anyway, let's get into the due diligence in respect to this paper now, so that we can see what is happening. So required aid says calculate hot Ds, budgeted fixed manufacturing overheads, allocated rate per direct clock hour for the 2023 financial year. Right. So when you see this question, what comes into your mind? You should be thinking about absorption costing. All right. Now, what is budgeted fixed manufacturing overhead allocation rate? All right. That is what you should be thinking of. Remember, in your absorption costing, you took budgeted fixed overheads divided by you divided by your budgeted allocation units. All right. So in this case, the company is allocating using clock hours. So in that case, you don't fight it, you allocate based on clock hours. In some questions, we allocate based on machine hours. Some questions we allocate based on normal capacity. So it all depends with the question, what the examiner wants. All right, so we don't fight it. So we're just supposed to allocate based on that. And then B, it says, assume that for the 2023 financial year, the standard, right, we did mention what FMO stands for, right? It stands for fixed manufacturing overheads, right? So FMO is equal to fixed manufacturing overheads. It's important that we recall this terminology as well, right? So assume that for the 2023 financial year, the standard fixed manufacturing allocation overhead, all right, per direct clock labor hour is 50, and the actual total fixed manufacturing overheads is 4 million. Now, what do they mean? Remember here, they asked you to do the calculation of fixed manufacturing overheads. And then on the below question, they just say, assume that the calculation for part A is actually 50. All right? So they're just giving me sort of like a hint. And then, so they want you to proceed from there. And then this one says, calculate the total overall under absorption amount to be included in the actual statement of profit and loss for the 2023 financial year, and indicate if this amount will be reflected as income or as an expense. And then the other one now says, calculate the budgeted margin of safety in units per product tab for the 2023 financial year. So what does that mean? So in regards to that, of course, we remember our formula for margin of safety, right? How do we calculate margin of safety? So we say sales minus break even. That's what gives us margin of safety, right? So the moment you know your framework, automatically everything should come in place, right? And then D, it says with reference to the what D information in the scenario, identify and discuss 5 social, right? Social, ethical, and environmental concerns that Hot D management should be aware of. So in regards to this, right, how do you answer this? Now you go to the scenario, right? And then on the scenario, you pick through the social, ethical, and environmental concerns that you have there. So it says identify and discuss. So you identify the issue from the scenario, and then you discuss it. And then E, it says for question E only, assume that a standard costing system is in place at Hot D. So they're using standard costing system. Calculate the following standard costing variances for the 2023 financial year. The sales price variance for product lacks only, the full cream milk powder purchase price variance for product basic only, the direct material mix variance, the direct material type for product lacks only, the direct labor idle time variance for product basic only. So the only way to approach this question now, of course, it will be to use what? It will be to use the formulas, the standard costing formulas, which we gave you guys. All right. And then F, all right, it says comment on the appropriateness of using the sales value at split off point. So a method to allocate joint costs to the joint products. All right. So in regards to this, which topic is this? This is process costing, right? So we are looking at process costing. Of course, we haven't really looked at the scenario to see, but at the back of your mind, right, you should be asking yourself, when do we use sales value to allocate the cost? So in terms of this, we use the sales value, of course, if at the split off point, we're able to determine our sales amounts. All right. So basically, of course, depending with the scenario, what's going on, then we know if we're supposed to use the sales value or not. So it's important. You need to understand the methods that we use to allocate the cost. All right, it's very important. Remember, we have quite a number of those methods that we use to allocate the joint product cost. So we use the net realizable value, we use the gross profit method, we use the physical method, and so forth. So it's very important that you recall all those methods, all right, for theory's sake. Even when you're doing the calculation, also you should be able to know when to use which method. All right. Did you guys cover that in class with Eugene? I believe you did, right? Process costing, did we do it? Anyone to confirm, guys? Process costing, is it done or not? Not sure. Is it Mark 3761? You never did process costing. It was touched on. Oh, it wasn't really done. Okay, all right. Then G1, calculate the total budgeted net profit for the cocoa butter product type for the financial year ending 31 March 2024. So in this case, they just want you to do the net profit. So questions like this, right, where they ask you to calculate budgeted net profit. My understanding and approach is, even if there is something that you might not be comfortable with, but one thing remains, almost everyone knows the framework for statement of profit and loss. You should scratch through and get at least half of the question, because you know the framework, you know sales. So when you do the calculation of sales, you should be able to get some marks there. So it's important that when you see a question like this, you are able to scratch through and then collect some marks there. All right, and then 2, based on your calculation on G1 above, comment on whether CBIN is budgeted to achieve the gross profit margin target as set out by SEC for the cocoa butter product. Support your commentary with necessary and relevant calculation. Of course, the target profit, of course, we have to compare some amounts there. And then C, Beans Management Accountant determined that it is cheaper per kilowatt hour to purchase electricity from ESCOM than the expected per kilowatt hour cost of a solar powered system. Discuss 4 other factors that need to be considered by CBIN when deciding to invest in solar power system or not. Right. This question, of course, we're not going to do it in detail, but let's discuss it before we even go to the scenario. What can you guys think of in regards to this? What can you guys think of in this regard? All right. Whilst you guys thinking, I see there was a comment there. All right. Someone is saying the paper was not difficult, but it made some silly mistakes. So in regards to this MAC paper, all right, what makes it more difficult is you will definitely meet lots of required. Can you see there's this required, there's this, there's this, there's this, there's this, there's like small number of marks they are portioned, and it is actually high risk for one, especially in terms of term factor, because there is a lot of required. And the only way that you can overcome that is through practicing questions. Costing is always like that. So in the upcoming test, which the guys are writing, you should expect a breakdown, lots of required. I know the finance side, it can be a little bit different, right? In the sense that a finance, they can actually bring you a 20-mark question, and then possibly a 15-mark question and so forth. But costing side, they normally break it into small components. So you have to train your mind and make sure that you're okay with that. All right, let's discuss here. Right, what do we have there? So Beans Management Accountant determined that it is cheaper per kilowatt hour to purchase electricity from ESCOM than using the solar system. Discuss 4 other factors that need to be considered by CBIN when deciding to invest in solar power system or not. What factors can we discuss, guys? Anyone, guys? This is what's happening in today's terms, isn't it? ESCOM versus solar. Why can't you guys discuss about load shedding? All right? Remember now, yes, ESCOM might be cheaper, but there is load shedding. Then you discuss about that point. See that? So this is what we need to look at. No, it's qualitative factor, of course. We don't, they say no calculations required, so we just discuss the theory side of things. So we're looking at load shedding. All right? What else can you guys think of? Investing in solar or versus continuously using ESCOM. Anyone, guys? Anyone, guys? So, of course, we can look at things like what are the environmental benefits that comes with solar power? All right. So Leonard is mentioning about pushing back to the grid. Yes, I hear you. Of course, there is that point whereby people are, ESCOM is pushing everyone to go back to the grid. Even if you say you're off the grid, they want you to pay a certain amount. Right, that's 100%. That's 100% correct then. Right. And then with that now being mentioned, what else can we think of? So we said environmental concerns, right? Or environmental benefits that comes with solar power, right? So remember, solar uses it uses renewable energy, right? We both know that the sun is renewable energy. So in this case, it is actually more beneficial there. What else can you guys think of? So in this case, probably it could be the availability of support from suppliers, right, after installation. So in this case, are the suppliers going to provide you support after the installation or not? All right. Someone could also discuss about the tax benefit. All right. Remember, SARS is promoting the usage of ESCOM. You could have discussed that. Remember in the budget speech, they said you get 150% allowance if you install the solar power system. So you can discuss that it is actually a financial benefit. Right? So in terms of that, you can discuss about the saving there. Right? And then, so basically that is with regards to, so questions like this, these are not the questions that you can't afford to get everything right. Why? Because even with you guys now in class, there isn't everyone here. They're affected by load shedding. So those are the factors that you need to think of. MAC, guys, when you look at MAC, you need to think of it also on your surrounding. You discuss this in regards to the environment that you are living in. Right. Let's look at these ones. So draft a memorandum, right? 2 formal marks to the management of CBIN, wherein you, one, from a quantitative perspective. So this is calculations now, all right? Advise CBIN on whether to further process the cocoa cake into cocoa powder during the 2024 financial year. As part of this advice, you must provide a reason based on relevant costing principles for the inclusion or exclusion of each item used in your calculation. Ignore any qualitative factors. Right, so in regards to that, of course, this is still a question on process costing. Right, so we're just looking at, we can do the benefits, right? Remember now with respect to process costing, so we're testing if we should further process the product, right? Remember, when we further process the product, there will be additional costs that come within that regard. So we are looking into this. Is it beneficial for us to further process, or should we just ignore and sell it before further processing? So in terms of this, we're using the principles now of relevant costing. I believe we did touch on relevant costing, right? So it's a combination of process costing and relevant costing. So the additional cost, that's what we're looking at. And then the finance and marketing teams are considering to use target costing because of the highly competitive nature of the cocoa powder market. Comment on the appropriateness of using target costing for cocoa powder. All right, so in terms of this now, I want to determine now whether we should use target costing, all right? So in terms of this, all right, so we normally use target costing, all right, when the prices cannot be easily changed, all right? So in terms of that, that is where we normally use target costing. So you can just apply in regards to the scenario to see what is going on there, all right? Then 3, discuss 3 internal or external factors CBIN need to consider when setting a selling price. What did you guys look at? Setting a price, what factors do you guys consider? Right, so in terms of this, when you're setting a price, we consider things like the elasticity, right? Price elasticity of demand, right? I believe you did cover some of this in your economics. The elasticity of demand. Remember, there's some customers who are price sensitive, all right? So when you increase the price, the demand goes down, all right? So in terms of that, it's a factor that you need to also look at. You also need to look at the competition in the industry, all right? We can all agree that there are the competition. That would mean now you need to actually make sure that you're careful with your pricing then. And then you need to look at availability of substitute products, all right? So maybe you increase the price, but they're substitute products now. So in that case, it will make it less favorable to the customers. They might opt to go for the substitute product there. All right. And then we can also consider the economic conditions. Like, for example, now we saw that there is increases in the repo rate and all that. Right. So if you increase now the prices, what's going to happen to the people? Because now most customers, they don't have surplus funds to spend. So in this case, you might find that the demand of your product might go down there. All right. So that is basically in regards to the required. Before we start answering the questions, all right, especially the guys who are writing on the coming weeks, when you see a question with these requireds, what I used to do, all right, we saw there was a comment that says he made some blunders, possibly because of time and all those things. Guys, in an exam, all right, there is no reward for answering a question in the same order, to say A, B, C, D, and so forth. If you feel like, right, usually what they do in exams is when you find first question difficult, the last questions will be easy. So we can all agree that question H was very easy. But the risk with question H, it was a theory question. And with theory, most of you guys spend more than sufficient time. What do? Start with the question you're comfortable with, then you move to the next, then you move to the next, and so forth. But just make sure that you stick to your time. I always coach you guys on always keeping up with time. It's important. Let's go to the scenario and see. Right. SAC consists of two divisions, named cocoa bean processing plant, that is C bean, all right, and cocoa based whole drink producer, or it's D. The division are managed by independent management teams that are responsible for all decisions affecting their respective divisions. Both production plants are situated near Cape Town in the Western Cape. ZAC has a 31 March financial year and uses an absorption costing system and values all its inventory items using the first in, first out method. Now, what did you guys learn about absorption costing as well as the first in, first out method? So it's important that as you'll be reading, you remember that. So absorption costing, we learned that production cost is equal to variable cost plus fixed manufacturing overheads. All right, this is the implication of using absorption costing. And then the company is using first in, first out method. What is the implication of first in, first out method? The implication of that now, you're going to find your opening stock. Sorry, your closing stock, I mean. All right, so closing stock, you're going to calculate it by saying production cost, right, divided by units manufactured, multiplied by closing stock units. See that? So that is the implication of that. We said when you're using weighted average method, how do you go about it? So the weighted average method for closing stock, we said you take opening stock, all right? So it's total, all right? Opening stock total, opening stock cost in rand plus production cost, all right? All divided by units manufactured. And then you multiply with closing stock units. So this is in regards to weighted average. Can you see the difference between the two methods? Right. ZAC annual profit targets for both the 2024 and 2023 financial year. So the gross profits, so the division C is 40%, what's D 30%. So these are the gross profit. Oh, sorry, margin, gross profit margin. What drink producers? All right, so from now it's what D, Hot D produces and sells two types of cocoa-based hot drinks, namely basic hot chocolate and luxury hot chocolate. So these are the two products. Cocoa powder, full cream milk powder, artificial filler powders, and sugar are combined to produce basic hot chocolate powder and cocoa powder. Full cream milk powder and sugar are combined to produce luxe hot chocolate. 1 unit. Right, can you guys mute yourselves, all right? And then you just unmute when you want to say something. All right, so Hot D produces and sells two types of cocoa-based hot drinks, namely basic hot chocolates and luxury hot chocolate. Cocoa powder, full cream powder, artificial filler powders, and sugar are combined to produce basic hot chocolate powder and cocoa powder. Full cream milk powder and sugar are combined to produce luxe hot chocolate powder. 1 unit of basic, so 1 unit of basic, this is another product, contains 500 grams of basic hot chocolate powder, packaged in non-recyclable plastic container, while 1 unit of luxe contains 300 grams of luxury hot chocolate powder, packaged in a recyclable pouch. Hot D's annual maximum production capacity is 130 tons. Basic hot chocolate powder and 42 tons luxe hot chocolate powder. So in regards to this question, it was important for you guys to understand now the conversions. All right. What is the relationship between tons and grams and so forth? All right. We haven't really got into that stage, but it is important that you're able to convert. All right. Think of it. You buy, what do you buy in grams? The common ingredient. Maybe you buy 500 grams of flour. All right. To the guys who love baking, you buy 500 grams of flour. And then another day you buy 1 kg of flour. So you should be, when you're sitting in the exam, that is the kind of vision that you need. And then you think of a truck, right? This is how I do things. You think about those big trucks that you see moving on the roads, right? And then you say, oh, this truck is actually carrying maybe 30 ton or whatever. So you just visualize yourself to say, the flour that I got, right? The 500 gram in that truck, how much do I have? And then you should be able to at least have a vision to see what is going on. So that is how you, when you're sitting in the exam, you're not necessarily supposed to know everything, but you should relate to your environment. Budgeted and actual management information for the 2023 financial year. The information in the following 2 tables was extracted from Hot D's system. So we have budgeted sales and production units, actual units sold, actual units produced, standard labor clock minutes per unit, actual labor clock minutes per unit, actual labor work minutes per unit. Right? So they gave us that. And then the budget per unit for powder produced. Additional information relating to the above management accounts. Hot D budgeted to produce at the annual maximum production capacity for the financial year and to sell all units produced. There was no actual and budgeted opening inventory. So can you see there's no opening inventory for any type of the 2023 financial year? There was no actual and budgeted closing direct raw material inventory of any type for the 2023. No actual budgeted normal losses of material occurred in the production process. The budgeted and actual selling price per unit for basic was 65 rand. So these are the selling price. Due to increased competition in the luxury hot chocolate market, the actual selling price per unit of luxe was 67.50 rand, which was 10% lower than the budgeted price. Now, can you guys see? So they're telling you the actual is this, which means now the budget is 10% less than that. You should be able to say that. So it's 67.50 minus 10% of 67.50. That's the budget. The cocoa powder's budgeted purchase price was 70,000 per ton, and its actual purchase price was 72,000 rand per ton. The actual full cream milk powder purchase price was 42,000 per ton. The budgeted sugar purchase price was 12,000 per ton, and the actual sugar price was 11,000 Rand per ton. The high sugar content in products such as hot chocolates, which is loved by children, recently came under the spotlight for increased obesity, especially in children. To bulk up the content of basic while reducing cost, what D uses artificial filler powders. The actual and budgeted price per ton was 2,000. These filler powders made news headlines recently for stunning the growth of children. Oops. The purchase prices, both budgeted and actual, for plastic containers and pouches were 1 Rand per container and 50 Rand per pouch. In an attempt to curb the actual production cost per unit of flax, all right, the quantity of cocoa powder used was reduced from the budgeted quantity to the actual quantity of 65 grams per unit. All right. As a result, the sugar content was increased by 5 grams per unit from the budget, and the milk powder by 10 grams per unit from the budget. To save cost, the ingredient information on the pouches was not updated to reflect the change in the mix of ingredients. Right. For basic, the actual quantity and mix of direct raw material per unit were as planned for in the budget. The standard idle time allowance for direct labor is 5%. The total budgeted direct labor cost for the 2023 financial year was 3.12 million for basic and 2.1 million for luxury. What these fixed manufacturing overheads are allocated based on the direct labor clock hours. The total budgeted fixed manufacturing overheads for the year is 4,284,000. 750. What these distribution costs are mixed cost, and the total budgeted distribution cost for the division are 850,000. Basic and Lux's budgeted variable distribution cost per unit are 2% of the selling price. The budgeted other fixed administrative cost for the division are 2,280,000 per annum. What this management was approached by unscrupulous health lobby group to pay 1 million for an endorsement of the health benefits of what these products. This is expected to significantly increase what these product exposure, resulting in higher sales. Cocoa bean processing plant. C-Bean imports the cocoa beans used in its factory from Ghana. The cocoa bean processing is recognized as a joint production process and simultaneously use 3 separately identifiable products at the split-off point: cocoa cake, cocoa butter, cocoa husks. Cocoa husks are incidental to the process. The related joint costs are allocated to the joint products using the market value at split-off point method. Production occurs evenly throughout the financial year. Extracts from the C-Bean's budgeted information for the year ending 31 March 2024. No opening or closing inventory of any type is budgeted for. The budgeted cocoa beans purchase price per ton is 12,800 Ghanaian cedi, including shipping and insurance. The related average Rand as to Ghanaian cedi exchange rate to be used throughout the financial year is Ghanaian cedi is equivalent to 1 Rand 50. The cocoa bean processing leads to 10% decrease in volume, that is normal process loss of the original cocoa bean input. at the end of the process. The normal output at the split off for a month is as follows. So we have cocoa, right? So the number of tons is 39.6, cocoa butter 45.9 tons, cocoa husk 4.5 tons. The processing of the cocoa bean input occurs in batches of 1.25 tons per batch and 4.75 hours per batch. The related budgeted conversion cost are 4,920 per hour. A regular market exists at the split off point for the full output of the byproduct after being further packaged at a cost of R1.30 per kilogram. All products are only sold to large retailers. The expected market selling prices for the products at the split off point are as follows. So these are the prices that you have. Bean selling cost are mixed cost, except for the husk, of which the budgeted variable selling cost is 20 Rand per kg. All the other products, budgeted variable selling cost at 2.5% of the selling price. The total budgeted selling cost is 5 million for the financial year. The factory space is rented to the entire financial year, 125,000 per month, and the administrative building, 98,000 per month. The budgeted annual fixed administrative costs are 7.4 million were incurred after the split off. All non-manufacturing fixed costs are divided equally between the joint products. During the budget meeting, the impact of load shedding on Bean was discussed. The management accountant was tasked to determine which is cheaper per kilo hour, to purchase electricity from Eskom or to invest in their own solar power system. Right. I don't think this is round 3, but I doubt we'll look into this. Bean's management team requested their finance and marketing teams to evaluate the possibility of adding cocoa powder to their product line by further processing cocoa cake into cocoa powder for the 2024 financial year only. If the decision is taken to implement the proposal, this cocoa powder would be sold to smaller retailers, and the following information will apply for the 2024 financial year. A total of 300 tons of cocoa cake will be further ground to produce cocoa powder at a ratio of 1:1. The expected market selling price of cocoa powder is 70 Rand per kg, and the related variable selling cost will be 2% of the selling price. All cocoa powder produced will be sold. A total of 3,500 direct labor hours will be required for further processing purposes. Bean pays their laborers a fixed monthly salary and currently has an existing spare capacity of 1,200 direct labor hours for the financial year. Any additional capacity is needed, if needed, is available at 150 Rand per hour. Cocoa powder specific additional fixed manufacturing overheads are expected to be 54,000, and the variable manufacturing overheads are expected to be 400 per machine hour. It takes 45 machine minutes to process 1 ton of cocoa cake into cocoa powder. Every 250 grams of cocoa powder will be packaged in a plastic container. Each empty plastic container consists of 1 Rand. Bean will invest 2,500,000 in specialized machinery that is 4-year useful life. Bean's accounting policy is to depreciate all machinery in full over its useful life. The machine will be exclusively used for further processing of the cocoa cake into cocoa powder. Unless otherwise stated, or other applicable information will remain the same as in the 2024 financial year budget information section 2.1 above. All right, so basically that is, this is the point where we are, all right, in regards to this part of the question. All right, so let's now answer our question, all right, to see what is going on there. All right. Okay, so in regards to this now, all right, let's now do the calculation of fixed manufacturing overheads. All right, so the question wants us to do this part. So let's look into it and answer this as much as we can. So calculate the what this budgeted fixed manufacturing overheads allocation rate per direct labor clock hour for the 2023 financial year. So let's quickly go there and see now what is happening. Right. For D, fixed overheads. All right. So these are our products that we're looking at. All right. So we want to do the hot D there. All right. So how do we do the calculation? All right. In regards to the allocation rate. So you to guide you, you can write down your formula there. So this is question 1, of course. All right. So question 1, part A. All right. So we're looking at budgeted fixed overhead allocation rate for hot D. Right. How do we do the allocation rate? So it's budgeted, so it's total budgeted fixed cost or overheads. Right. Then you divide it by what? So in regards to this question, they're telling us to use labor hour. All right. So we divide by total budgeted labor hours. So this is what's going to give us now that part. All right. So let's quickly see. So I'm sure we can all agree that it's easier to do fixed overheads. Is it given? All right. So you run through to see if they actually give us your budgeted fixed overheads there. If not, of course, we can do the calculation there. So here we have the information. So it's running like that. Where is the fixed cost? All right. So in this regard, we have, can you see what these fixed manufacturing overheads are allocated based on the budgeted direct labor clock hours? The total budgeted fixed manufacturing overheads for the year is 4,284,000. So in this case, we have, so actually I forgot, total budgeted fixed manufacturing. So here you have your fixed manufacturing overheads. So it's given, right? You don't need to do the calculation because it's given. So you just write it down so you know you have, right? So it's 4,284,715. Right, so that's given, no need to stress. And then what is the next step? So your budgeted labor hours. Right, let's see if it's given or not. Right, so we want to determine now how much are the budgeted labor hours for these products. All right. So let's go to labor now. Right. Oh, 1.113. All right, thank you, Leonora. All right, so let's go to 1.113. All right. So the standard, all right. So the standard idle time allowance for direct labor is 5%. All right. And the total budgeted direct labor cost for the 2023 year was 3.12 for basic and 2.1 million for this. All right, that's fine. Let's just go up there and see what did they tell us about the labor hours as well. All right. So in regards to this, right, can you see we are given standard clock minutes, all right, per unit. So there's 12 and then there's 15. And then let's quickly go now and see what else do we have in this regard. All right. So we're told 1 unit of basic contains 500 grams, all right, of basic hot chocolate powder and all that. While 1 unit of lax, all right, contains 300 grams, all right, and so forth. But anyways, so we're looking at the labor hours. So now this is per unit. All right. Now, what is the budgeted production, all right, the units that they actually produce there? Let's quickly see if we have that type of information. All right. So you run through your information, right? You've been highlighting something there so that it could actually guide you. So you run through there, and then you see what's happening. You don't have anything, right? So here they're giving us the budgeted direct labor cost, right? This is labor cost, right? So you have that, the budgeted and all that, all right? Remember, you're looking for the hours, all right? In regards to this question. So they gave us the labor cost, all right? We run through, so that's basically the end of our information. So let's now do the calculation, all right, to see now in regards to this, what is going on. So we are told now under 1.13, all right, just like how Leonora highlighted that the total budgeted labor cost for the 2023 was 3.12 million for basic and 2.1 million for luxury. But this is what? Labor cost. We want what? Labor hours. I don't know if it's making sense there. So we have labor cost, which is given like that, but we want the hours now. So we want to determine in our terms. So let's quickly see how much are we paying these guys. All right, so we can see now standard labor clock minutes per unit. So these guys are getting paid 12 rand, all right, per unit. So we can actually determine the number of hours, all right, basing on that. We can actually use that to do our calculation then. So you can actually start off with, so we can do per product, of course. So we can do basic, all right. How much did you budget labor hours for basic? So here we can see the total labor cost for basic is 3.12 million. Right, so that is what we have, and then we divide that, right? So we can divide that 3.12 million, right? We can divide that by the rate per unit, all right? So in this regard, how much are we paying per unit? So they're paying 4 rand, all right? That is paid. Oh, these are minutes. Oops. Let's quickly see. Something is not right. This is not in line. These are units. All right, let's see the relationship between this information. So the budgeted and actual selling price was 65 due to increased competition. The budgeted purchase price for cocoa. All right. Okay, they did not refer us to anywhere, all right, which means now we actually have to look at some information about the budgeters and sales production units there. All right, let's quickly see. Right, let's run through and see. So we are looking for the information where they give us something relevant about the units produced, all right? The budgeted units, they're actually produced there. This is purchase price, budgeted purchase price, it's actually purchase price. And then we have this. Right. All right. So what this annual maximum production capacity is 130. Oh, yes. All right, I could have forget. All right, so in terms of this, so in respect to budgeted hours, so we use the normal hours. All right, it's just like the same way that we did with if it was units produced. So we're going to use the normal hours. So in regard to this, what we're going to do now is, remember now we are told now that the company has normal capacity of 130 tons, all right, of whole powder and 42 tons of hot chocolate. So this is their normal capacity. So we're going to use normal capacity to do the calculation of our absorption rate. So we want to determine now the number of hours, all right, that they spend now in regards to this tonnage. All right, so what can we do in this regard? We have 1,000 tons, so 130 tons. All right, so we're working with 130 tons there and 42 tons there. All right, but here we can also see that a unit, all right, the unit that we're dealing with is actually in grams. You know, so we can look for a middle term. Someone could choose to say, okay, I'm going to convert my tons to grams. All right, it also gives the same answer. Someone could have opted to say, okay, I'm going to convert my grams to tons. Of course, there'll be lots of zeros, but it will give the same answer. But the logical or the better part of it, you could have converted into kgs. All right, so you can convert your tons into kgs as well as your unit. Instead of using 0.5 grams, you can now work with so instead of working with 500 grams, you can work with 0.5 kgs. All right. So in this regard, now, so you could convert, all right? So maybe let's say workings, right? So 130 tons to kgs. So in this regard, 1 ton is equivalent to 1,000 kgs. So in this case, we'll give you 1,000 kg. Right, and then 1 unit in tons, it is equivalent to 0.5 kg. Right, so basically you do that. So here now, so we are working with hours, so we have 130,000. So you're supposed to work with that. So you have 130,000. This is your produce, all right, under normal capacity. This is so 130,000 kgs. Now you want to convert it into hours. Right? How long is it going to take you, right, to manufacture this? So if you're told now that, so in regards to this question, you're told now, labor clock minutes per unit is actually 12. So it takes you 12 minutes to make 0.5 kgs. All right, so it takes us 12 minutes. Is equal to 0.5 kgs. You see that? So if it takes you 12 minutes to make 0.5 kgs, how much is it going to take you to make what? 130,000 kg. That is what we are looking at. All right. So in this regards, there's so many ways that you could have queued this part of the question. All right. So someone could have said, okay, so 1 unit, all right, is equal to 0.5 kgs. So how many units are there in 130,000 kgs? We can all agree that it is actually more than. All right. So you could just take 130,000 kgs, all right? And then, of course, you multiply it with 1 over 0.5. All right, so it will give you the total number of units that you actually produced. So in this case, you have 130 divided by 0.5. All right, so it will give us 260 units. Right, now it takes you 12 minutes to make 0.5 kg. Now let's convert the minutes into hours. All right, so in this case, how long does it take us to make, how many hours does it take us to make 1 unit? So we took 12 divided by 60. All right, so to determine now the time it takes us to make 1 unit. So in this case, 0.2 hours. All right, so in this case, we said 12 minutes is the price it takes us to make 0.5 kgs, all right, which is 1 unit. Now, how long is it going to take us to make 260,000 units? All right, so we can all agree now that it takes more time, all right, of course. So in that regard now, so our final answer now, we're going to take, so we're going to do it like this. So alternatively, we could have just said 130,000, all right, divided by 0.5, all right, which is this conversion we did there, all right, and then we multiplied by 12 divided by 60. Right, if someone feels lost, you could have just said, so in this case, it takes, you have 260 units, and then it takes you 0.2 hours to make 1 unit. How much is it going to take to make this? So it can give you 52,000 hours. All right, so in this case, these are the number of hours that we have there. All right, alternatively 130 divided by 0.5 times 12 over 60. Right, I don't know if you guys are still with me or I lost you there. Are we there, guys? Or I lost some of my friends.
We're still here.
Right. Okay, perfect.
We hear Ian.
All right, wonderful, guys. So we're done with basic. Let's move on to lakhs. So how much is it? How much are we producing for lakhs? So we can see lakhs we're producing 42 tons. All right, we want to convert now the tons into kgs. All right, I said another hint which I saw that they actually gave us in regards to this question. All right, if you check, can you see under part B? All right, so under part B, where they gave us now, they gave us 50 rand labor clock hour. Can you see it? It automatically means now it's more like a hint they're giving you to say, okay, don't work with minutes, but rather work with hours. It was also another hint which they actually gave us there. All right, so in this regards, that's why we're saying, okay, if you missed it under 1, you could also have used B as your guide there. So the next product now that we have here, so we said we are producing how many tons for lakhs? So we are producing 42 tons of lakhs. All right, so this is lakhs, our product. So producing 42 tons. So let's convert the tons into kgs. It gives us 42,000. Right, remember we multiply by 1,000. All right, and then how long is it? Okay, what is 1 unit? All right, what is 1 unit of lakhs? So 1 unit of lakhs is equal to 300 grams. And then in kgs, how much is 1 unit? So we can see 300 divided by 1,000. It gives us 0.3 kgs. So in this case, it's going to take us 0.3. So we divide with 0.3, right? And then we multiply by the time it's taking to make 1 unit there. All right, so yeah, how much is it taking? It's taking us 15 minutes. All right, so we then multiply with 15 out of 60. Right, so that's how we could go about that. Times 15 over 16, then it gives us these units. All right, so these are the, so it's actually not units, but hours. Right, then we add together these hours. Right, so it gives us the total number of hours that we have. So these are budgeted hours. And then our absorption rate, how are we going to do it? Right, so of course we're going to divide the fixed overheads divided by that. So allocation rate. Overhead allocation rate. So we're going to divide the fixed cost, right, which is 42,847.50 divided by 87,000. Right, it will then take us to 42,847.50 divided by 87,000. Right, so it will give us 49 rand. So our absorption rate is 49 rand per direct labor. Right, so basically that is how we could have done that part. Let's proceed now to the next one so that we see. But before we go, is there any question or is there anywhere that you feel like you are lost? Nothing. Right, B, assume that for the 2023 financial year, the standard fixed manufacturing overhead allocation rate per direct labor clock hour is 50 rand. So here they said, okay, yes, you did the calculation of 49 there, all right? But assume. Why are they using assume for part B? They're looking at the guys possibly who did not get part A right, all right? They don't want to continuously mark you wrong. So they're saying, okay, rather use 50 rand instead of the 49 rand. So use 50 rand. So they say assume that for this year, all right, the fixed manufacturing overhead allocation rate per direct labor clock hour is 50. And the actual fixed manufacturing overhead is 40 million. Now, they want us now to do the calculation of what? They want us to do the calculation now of over or under absorption. So what do you guys do, all right, in regards to this part of the question? How do you go about it? How do you calculate your over or under absorption when you have your allocation rate? What do you do, guys, for absorption costing? So remember now, before you get to the fixed or under absorption, remember you have calculated your allocation rate, which they said is 50 rand. What do you multiply that with in order to get your fixed manufacturing overheads that you add to the product there? This is where we are. All right, I'm just going to take you a little bit flashback. Absorption costing. Statement of profit and loss. All right. Now, what do you guys know about absorption costing? If you recall, we say sales. All right. And then we have cost of sales. And then under cost of sales, we say opening inventory. Excuse me. And then we have production cost. Right? Under production cost, we have direct material. I just want to take you guys where we are. So you add your direct material there, direct labor. You add your direct labor there, and then you have fixed manufacturing overheads. All right? Now, this is where we are. These fixed manufacturing overheads, how did you calculate them? That is where this part, all right, of the question, if you knew how to do the calculation of these fixed manufacturing overheads, then the rest of the question would be easy. All right. So anyways, let's go there and see what is happening there. So the fixed manufacturing overheads now, all right, so we're going to need now the units produced, all right? Remember, we multiply our allocation rate by the units that they actually produced there. All right, so let's quickly see now how many units did they actually produce. So can you guys see, right, in this regard? So they produced, so units produced, right? So 255,840, right? These are the units that they produced. But, right, remember, 50 Rand per hour. Do you see that? This is your absorption rate. This is the rate. So you're paying 50 Rand per direct hour. Now, these guys, they produce 255,840 units. Right? So they produced 255,840 units. Now, what is your unit? 1 unit is equivalent to, what did they say there? So they said 1 unit, if we were to look at basic, it's 500 grams. Lux is 300 grams. Do you see that? So 1 unit is equivalent to that part. So it's 500 units and 50 grams. So, and it's taking you how much time is it going to take you? So can you see actual labor clock minutes per unit? It's going to take you 10 Rand 80 to make this. This is the time it's taking you to make 1 unit. All right. So in this regard now, we now need to see now, all right, how best can we go about it in regard to this question. All right. So because it's taking us 10 Rand 80 to make 1 unit. All right, that is the clock time that we have. We have 10 Rand 8 to make 1 unit. Let's convert that into hours. So we have produced, for this product, we have produced 255,840 units. All right. In terms of hours, how much time did it take us to make this? All right. So let's work it out. So we're going to take now for basic. All right. It's going to take us 255,840 units. All right. Per in minutes, of course. So we're going to we then multiply that. All right. Remember, these are the units we produced, and it's taking us 10 Rand 80 minutes to make 1 unit. So multiply by 10.8 divide by 60, so that we're able to determine the total number of hours it took us to make this unit. Right. So these are the hours it actually took us to produce those units. And then lux, we do the same again on lux. Right, let's see what is happening in regards to lux. It took us 100, also we produced 134 units of lux. How much time is it taking us to make 1 unit of lux? Right, so 1 unit of lux is taking us 15.6. Can you see we're working with actual, not budgeted? So it's 15.6. Of course, you divide by 60. Right, so this is what will give us 134 multiplied by 15.6 divided by 60. So it will give us these hours. Right, so these are the number of hours. Then we add them together. Right, the total number of hours it took us to produce these units. Right, so these are the hours that we have there. So the total hours. And then, right, so these are the total hours that we have. Now, what are we going to have now, right, in that regard? So we're going to have to do the calculation now of the total overhead allocated. All right, we could have just multiplied by 50, right, in each and every one of these components, right? But yeah, we could have multiplied by 50 each one. Remember, we're told the absorption rate is 50, but gives the same answer as well. All right. If we just work it out like this. All right. So we can just work out the total hours, then we multiply by our allocation rate. Or alternatively, someone could have just said basic. You get the 4651, you multiply by 50 to say, okay, how many units, all right, produced, all right, the actual number of units we spend, the actual number of hours, which we spend on basic, we spend this. And what is the rate per unit is 50 rand. So the total rand value, all right, allocated to basic, you can just multiply by 50, it gives you the same. And then you do that for lakhs, you multiply by 50, it gives you the same. Then you add together your totals there. It should actually give you this. So it's 4,044,560. So that's your total now fixed overheads, manufacturing overheads that you're going to record with here. So in this statement, you're going to record your fixed manufacturing overheads looking like this. Now, there is a problem. Your actual fixed manufacturing overheads. All right. So remember, these are the total allocated. So it's total allocated fixed overheads. Right? These are the total allocated fixed overheads. Now, what is the actual fixed overheads? There's a problem because now the allocated and the actual are different. So in the question, they give us the actual fixed overheads. So how much is the actual? So you're told it's 4 million. Can you see it? So you're told the actual fixed overheads are actually sitting at 4 million, but you allocated 4,044,560. So there's a difference between these two, which would mean now, right? Can you see you allocated more than, right? So in regards to this now, they allocated more than they should have. So which means there is over absorption. You can see that. So that you're sitting now in an over absorption costing position because you allocated more fixed overheads to this compared to what you should have actually allocated there. Any questions, guys?
Ian?
Yes, ma'am.
As I understand this fixed manufacturing overhead, we do the calculation. I thought we always use the budgeted figures.
Okay. So
but now you're actually using the actual figures.
Okay. So
that is a little confusing for me.
All right. So we use the budgeted when we're calculating our allocation rate. You see this? So this was calculated based on the budgeted information. So to calculate your allocation rate, you use the budgeted information. That's why we took the total fixed manufacturing. So it's total fixed budgeted manufacturing overheads. Overheads divided by total budgeted normal hours. All right, let's just clear there in case maybe you missed something. So this is where you use your budget. So to calculate your allocation rate, you use the budget. Are we good there?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So now you have your budget. What do you then do? To calculate now your fixed manufacturing overheads that you add to production cost. You see here, production cost. What are you going to do? You're going to take your budgeted allocation rate. You multiply that with actual. So you multiply it with actual. So in this case, of course, we're dealing with hours, right? So you multiply with the actual hours produced. Or if it's normal capacity, you multiply with actual units produced. So it all depends with the question. Now, if it's machinery, you multiply with actual machines used. I don't know if you are with me there.
Yes, I understand. Thank you.
So when you have the actual hours, you then, so now we have calculated the actual hours, right? So can you see this is where we are? Now we then come and compare now the allocated versus the actual. Right, just to make you further understand, Farah, if it was the case, all right, like you said, that we use budgeted or no scenario, it was going not to make sense, because now, if you find in the question, I think there's somewhere where they gave us some budgeted fixed cost. Can you see? Or these are admin. Can you see here? They gave us the total budgeted fixed manufacturing overheads of 4.284. If we were going to use the budget, there was no need to do all these calculations. We could have just taken that given amount, all right, which is the 4,284,000. We could have just used it there. Do you see that? So we don't use the budgeted, but we sort of flex it. So we take the budgeted allocation rate per hour, and then we multiply it with the actual units. Okay, perfect. So let's proceed to the next step now. So the next step now, it says calculate the budgeted margin of safety. All right. So they want us to look at the margin of safety now to see what is happening in units per product type for the 2023 financial year. All right. So we said, okay, so in regards to this margin of safety, all right, what do you know about margin of safety? All right. So they said budgeted margin of safety per product type. All right. Per product type. So which means for each product. So we know that margin of safety is equal to what? Sales units, sales minus break even, right? So we're taking the sales units less break even units. That is what gives us the margin of safety. We can all agree there, right? So in that now being mentioned, right? So we have budgeted sales divided by sort of minus the break-even point. So let's quickly see now, all right, in this regards now, what is going on, all right? Let's quickly check it out. Do we have, what is they say budgeted, yeah, they said budgeted. So I want to determine what is the budgeted number of units which they are selling, all right? So in that regard. All right. So in terms of this question, all right, so we're being told budgeted sales and production units. Looks like they also did not give us, all right? They just leave it open there, all right? So they just said question mark, budgeted sales and production units. Now let's see, what do we have? Actual units sold, 254. And then there's 125. These are the actual units that they actually sold, but we don't have the budget. All right. So that's still fine. All right. We can still, I'm sure we can still do the calculation in regards to that as well. All right. So let's do the calculation of the budgeted units. How many units did they budget to sell? All right. So here, we assume that the company is working at maximum capacity because they did not mention that the company is not operating at maximum capacity. So we can work out now the budgeted units sold. All right. So let's calculate now the budgeted units sold. All right. So we have two products. All right. We have basic. All right. So how many units did they sell for basic. So we are being told now that this company at maximum capacity, all right, they produce 130,000 tons, all right, they produce 130,000 tons. And if you check, all right, HOTD budgeted to produce at the annual maximum production capacity. So in this case, which means now the company is working at maximum capacity, and there is no actual and budgeted opening inventory, and there was no actual budgeted closing inventory. So which means now all the units they produced, they also sold those. The company is working towards producing at maximum capacity. So which means now we're now going to have 130,000 tons, right, as the number of units the company has produced. So this is what the company is actually producing. They're producing 130,000 tons. All right. And then 1 unit of basic contains 500 grams of basic. So let's determine how many units is the company actually selling. All right. So here we are. I think we've done this calculation. So 130,000, of course, we can divide with 0.5, all right, to get now the number of units that the company is producing there and selling. So 130 divided by 0.5. All right. So the company is actually selling, producing, and selling this number of units. So they're selling 260,000 units of basic. And then lags. What is happening in regards to lags? The company is actually producing and selling 42 tons, which is 42,000. Then we divide now with the quantity per unit. So here we can see now it's 0.3 kgs. So there's 300 grams, which is equivalent to 0.3 kgs. So we can just set it by 0.3. Right. So to get the number of units, 0.3. All right. So it gives us 140 units. So these are the number of units which our company is actually producing and selling. Right. So in regards to that, so we now have the number of units that the company has actually produced and sold. So you can actually add them together. There's no problem, since, of course, remember now we have 2 products, which means you might need to do the calculation of weighted contribution. So it gives you 4 million. Right. Let's now look at break-even. All right. You break it into points. How do you calculate break-even? Break-even is equal to what? Total fixed cost divided by contribution. But in this regard, you have 2 products, so you're going to divide with weighted contribution. Right. So the next step that we need to do now is contribution per unit calculation. Oh, let's work with the easy one. Let's calculate total fixed cost. If it's not given, all right? It's important that we work out our total fixed cost. All right. So in regards to the question now, all right, what do we have is our total fixed cost. All right, let's see. What do we have there? All right. So in the question now, we're told now that we have the total budgeted fixed manufacturing overheads is sitting at 4,284,000. Can you see? So we add total fixed manufacturing cost. So this is our budget. All right. So we're sitting with 4,284,750. All right. And then total fixed administration cost. How much do we have there? So in terms of the administration cost, we are sitting with 2,280,000 per annum. Right, so that's what we have. And then we add together. All right, so we're going to add together this. So it gives us 65. All right, so it's going to take us to that 65. 65, 64, 750. All right, so the total fixed cost. Did we skip anything? Do we have selling cost? Oh, there's distribution cost, yeah? A mixed cost, which means there's some fixed cost there. All right. The distribution cost are mixed cost, and the total budgeted distribution cost for the division are 850. And then basic lacks budgeted variable distribution cost per unit are 2% of the selling price. So can you see? So these are the things that you should actually watch out from in the exam. You know, it's important, guys, that that you take note of that. So we need to actually add, right? It's not complete. The list is not complete. We did not include the distribution cost. All right. So let's work out distribution fixed cost. All right. It's important. So how are we going to work out the distribution fixed cost? There's so many ways that we could have done it. All right. So someone could have taken, all right, you can see now the total cost that we have there is 850. All right. So you told the distribution cost are sitting at 850, but they are mixed cost. So you can record it. Someone could have recorded total distribution cost 850,000, right? And then less variable distribution cost. Remember, in the 850, it's made up of both fixed and variable cost. So now let's see what is the variable. So variable distribution cost per unit are 2% of the selling price. So let's quickly see what is the selling price. So here now, what do we have about the selling price? All right, so budgeted sales in units, of course, we have that. What is the budgeted selling price? All right, so can you see the budgeted and actual selling price per unit for basic was 65. Due to increased competition in the luxury hot chocolate market, the actual selling price per unit of Lux was 67.50, which is 10% lower than the budgeted price. So it became a little bit, so this type of equation now, right? It became a little bit interesting now, in the sense that now we now have to do the split in regards to our cost. So how many units did we sell for basic? So we want to calculate the variable cost for basic and then the variable cost for the other one, which is Lux. So let's work it out. All right. So we do variable cost for basic and then variable cost for Lux. So basic. All right. What is the distribution cost that you have for basic? So we saw basic, they're selling at 65 Rand per unit. The budgeted selling price is 65 Rand. Right. How many units did basic actually sold? So we saw the basic sold 260,000 units. All right. So 260,000 units. So 65 Rand times 260,000 units. And then you're told variable costs are equivalent to what? You go back to your question. So you're told variable costs are equivalent to 2% of the selling price. So you multiply with 2%. So that's how we could have calculated for basic. Is it difficult, guys? Or is just a lot of information?
It's just a lot of information, confusing there and there.
Yes.
No.
So confusing.
No, I hear you 100%. So what normally happens in the MAC exam? They give you a lot of information, especially the final. They give you a lot of information, and in that regards, all right, you now need to make sure that with the given information, all right, you actually breathe in, breathe out. You try to follow the information. This is why I always recommend you guys to work on past papers, work on question banks, because now the only way that we can, we can groom the mind is through working through the past papers. All right. So Leonora is saying she made a comment there, but remember, guys, this is my way of thinking. All right. This is not Eunice's way of thinking. So don't actually, last night I thought about it. I did not want anyone who wrote, all right, in the class, because I know sometimes what happens is you become now frustrated over yourself. What if Eunice does some magic there? All right. So just relax and then and see what happens. All right. Don't stress too much about it. We're just learning and then see what's going on there. All right. So we have now the variable cost distribution cost for lakhs. Let's look at sort of for basic. Let's look for the other one there. All right. So in regards to the other one, now we have what is the selling price in regards to lakhs. So we told lakhs now they're selling at 67.50, lower than the budget. So we're going to take 67.50. So we can just multiply with 90%, right? Remember, we removed the 10%. Or someone could have said 67.50 minus 67.50 times 10%. It gives you the same answer. Right. So in this case, that's the selling price and then number of units sold for lakhs. How much did we sold? So we sold 140,000. All right. And then multiply by the 2%. All right. So we account for it in this regard. Right, so we adjust with the 2% there. So it gives us this. So these are the total now variable distribution cost that we have. All right, so we have the variable distribution cost looking like this. All right, and then so remember now, we want to deduct this variable distribution cost. We want to deduct it from the fixed, the distribution cost there. Right, so that would mean now, so in this regard, it would mean now that our fixed cost is going to be the total manufacturing cost plus the distribution cost, including variable cost minus the variable cost, and then we add the fixed administration cost. So it will take us now to this amount. So this is what will give us now our total fixed cost. The N1 was lost so far.
Yes, Ian. On
Yes.
the selling price for lakhs, on the scenario, it says the actual selling price per unit of lakhs was 67.50, which was 10% lower than the budgeted price. Aren't we supposed to be adding that 10% back?
Oh, I see what you mean. It's 67%, 67 rand lower than the buy. Yeah, no, you're actually right. So which makes it which means we now need to add 10% to this amount, right? Which makes it 1.1 instead of what is this? So we're gonna multiply with 1.1 instead of multiplying with 90%. Right, thank you for that actually. You're 100% correct there. Just right, is it better now? Or it's still not making sense? All right, let's just do the way that you guys want. So 67.50, all right, plus what? 10% of 67.50. All right, and then multiplied by 140,000 units multiplied by 2%. Gives us how much? It's different. Why is it different? 140 Oh, actually, I'm supposed to open brackets here. All right, so it's still the same. All right. But thank you for the correction. That was 100% a valid one there. All right, give us this. So that's the variable distribution cost for lakhs. All right, so there we go. So we're supposed to be sitting at this balance there. And then, so in that now being said, so we have our total fixed cost. Now let's do the calculation of contribution per unit. All right, well, now I want to do the calculation of contribution per unit. So which means now we can work out with basic, and then we can do lakhs there. All right, so let's do the sales or selling price per unit. All right, so in this regards, how much are we selling? The budgeted selling price per unit. All right. For the other parts, we saw it's 65. And then here we saw that it was 67.5, right? Plus, or we can just say times 1.1, right? So it will give us 74.24. All right. You just see. Let's just see if we take 67.5 divided by 0.9, does it give the same 75 on the dot? Okay. I think let's use 67.5. Remember, we're saying 90% of this amount is this. So what is 100%? So we just divide, no? So we can divide by 0.9 to give us 75. Let's do the same here. I don't want to have confusion with you guys. So let's divide with 0.9. And then here we also divide with 0.9. So that we are consistent. Right, I know it gives a small rounding difference. So what we are saying, 67.5 is equal to 90%. Remember, we're told it's 10% less. What is the price of 100%? Right, so it's more, of course. So we take 100 over 90 times 67.5. Right, so that's how it will give us our amount there. So we have a selling price, and then we say less variable cost. Right, so in terms of this, the variable cost, let's quickly see now what is expected of us. What did they give us there? Right, so it was one of those questions. So the budget, right, I think the guys who wrote MSc, they actually did. It was a long paper, right? So we told now cocoa powder, all right? So the quantity per unit is this, and then the price per unit, right? We want to determine how much is the price per unit of cocoa powder, all right? So let's see. So what's happening in regards to cocoa powder? The cocoa powder's budgeted purchase price was 70,000 rand per ton. So this is what they budgeted now to produce per ton, right? So 70,000 per ton. Let's see how much cocoa powder did we use. So they used, right? So cocoa powder is 100 grams per unit. All right, so we have 100 grams per unit, all right, but you're going to find out that they're actually making this 70,000 per ton. Now I want to determine now, right, how much cocoa powder did you actually use there, all right? It wasn't really that easy, all right, if we wanna be honest, all right? Yeah, it is what it is. we just have to work, all right? So cocoa powder cost 70,000 rand per ton. Cocoa powder, all right, cost 70,000 rand per ton, all right? Now, 1 unit, it requires how many grams of cocoa powder? So here we told now, we need 100 grams of cocoa powder. So 1 unit is equal to 100 grams, which is 0.1 kgs. Right? So 1 unit needs 0.1 kgs. All right. Now, let's look into it so that we have a better understanding. Now, how many units did you actually produce? All right, in this regard. Or anyway, since we are not working with totals, what we could have done is we could have just worked it. We're working with price per unit, right? So cost is 70,000 per ton. All right, 1 unit is equal to this. So we can just convert, all right, tons to kgs. So we can just take 70,000. So not these are 70,000 rand per ton. We can convert this into kgs. All right, what will be the price now per kg? Since we are told now the cost is 70,000 per ton. All right, what is the cost for kgs? So we can just take 70,000, or we could have converted the 0.1 there, all right, that we have there. We can just convert it into tons. All right, so 1 unit is equivalent to 100 over 1 million, or we could have just said 0.1 divided by 1,000. All right, so it will give us the units in tons. So 0.1 divided by 1,000. All right, so it will take us to, because there'll be so many zeros. Right, and then we multiply with 70,000 so that we get a cost per unit. Right, it could be 70,000 tons. Now, we multiply with 0.0001 in order to get the cost per unit. All right, so basically that is how we could have gone about it, right, in regards to cocoa powder. So we have cocoa powder, right? Alternatively, we could have taken, so 100 grams is equivalent to, we divide by 1 million to convert it into tons. Then we multiply with 70,000. Then we get our cost there. Right, it could have given us something like 7 there. Let's see if there's decimals. 7. And then for the other one, let's see what is the cost. So we have 80 grams there. So we could have taken 80 as well. But by 1 million. And then we multiply also with the price there. So 72,000. All right, so we have 80 divided by 1 million. 72. Right, so it will take us there. All right, and then we look at the next variable cost. All right, what is the next variable cost there? So in this regard, we have full cream milk powder. So the next variable cost is full cream milk powder. All right, what do we have in that regard? So full cream milk powder. So we told now 170 grams of full cream milk powder. And then the information in that regard, the actual full cream milk powder purchased was 42 rand, 42,000 per ton. Right, so what is happening now in respect to full cream milk powder? We don't want the actual, right? Remember, we need the budgeted. All right. Let's see. They give us the price somewhere. So that's full cream. And then the budgeted sugar was that. Right. Do we have any price of full cream milk powder somewhere? We don't. Oh, yeah. Oh, we only have for lax, eh? Full cream milk powder. We only have for lax. It's 4.8. And what about the other one? 1.17. All right. So 1.17. All right, under 1.17. Now we told that the action, no, this is the action, eh? We want the budget. All right, so let's see. We can work it out. Remember, the price will be the same. All right, it was actually, the question wasn't really straightforward. All right, so we can work out now the ones for lax. All right, for basic, I mean, how could we have done it? Can you see? It cost us 480 per unit of lax. So full cream milk powder, so we have 4.8 there. Which means now lax, right? So if we can do the proportion, so if it cost 120 grams, cost 480. So what is the cost for? 170. All right, that is how we could have worked out the value there. So we could have taken 170 divided by, so you could have divided by 120. Then multiply with 4.8. Right. So this is how we could have gotten the price for the full cream milk powder. That's 4.8. Right. So we could have gotten that price as a price for the powder there. Right. Let's proceed to the next variable cost. Right. So we're done with full cream, and then we have artificial filler powders. Right, artificial filler powder. All right, what is the cost in that regard? All right, so let's go down. All right, so for artificial filler powder, it looks like it's only applicable to this product. All right, we can see there's nothing for lax there. So 80 grams, let's see. All right, 1.19 to bulk up the content of basic while reducing cost. What D uses? Artificial filler powders. The actual and budgeted price per ton was 2,000 rand. These filler powders made news headline recently for stunning the growth of children. All right, so in this regards, of course, we see that there's 2 million. You know, so what we could have just done, we could have taken 80 divided by 1 million and then multiply by the 2,000. So 80, remember 80 grams to convert to tons, you divide by 1 million, then multiply with 2,000 to get the cost per unit. Right, so it takes us to 0.16. Let's proceed to the next one. So we have sugar, right? What is the cost of sugar? The budgeted sugar purchase price was 12,000 rand per ton. All right, so this is what the sugar cost. So in this regard, we look at sugar as well. You know, so you can just take 150 divided by 1 million as well. So sugar. And then we multiply with 4,000. All right, and then the other one, we also take, so we have sugar 100 divided by 1 million times 4,000. All right, so this is how we could have gone about it. So 150 divided by 1 million times 4,000. And then here we have 100 divided by 1 million times 12,000. So to take us there. All right, so we're done with the sugar. And then let's proceed to the next one. Is there anything else? So we're looking for variable cost, right? So the purchase price for both budgeted and actual for plastic containers and pouches were R1 per container. You know, so it's R1 per container, and then and 50 Rand per pouch. All right, so let's see what is happening in that regard. All right, what goes into pouch and what doesn't go into pouches. All right, let's quickly see if our products goes into the pouches. Plastic containers and pouches were R1.50. All right, so in this case, what do we package in pouches and what do we package in containers? All right, we'll look into the sales mix, but let's see about the pouches. How do we wrap our products? All right, let's see. So here's the information that we might need, right? So HOTD produces and sells 2 types of cocoa-based hot drinks, namely basic hot chocolate and luxury hot chocolate. Cocoa powder, full cream milk powder, artificial filler powders, and sugar are combined to produce basic hot chocolate. And cocoa powder, full cream milk powder, and sugar combined to produce hot chocolate. 1 unit of basic contains 500 grams of basic hot powder packaged in non-recyclable plastic container. Can you see? So for basic, we use plastic container. All right. Right, and then Lux contains 300 grams of luxury hot chocolate, which is packaged in recyclable pouch. So which means now pouch is for the other one. Right. So here now, so in this regard, all right, they try to give it to you, all right, but of course you have to make sure now that you know who's using what. All right, so we have R1, all right, that is for a plastic container. All right, so we have R1 there, and then the pouch. What is the cost of the pouch? It's 50 cents, so 0.5. So you see that. So I meant to believe when they were marking, they were checking. All right, if you include something there, you lose your mark. If you include something, you include your mark, you lose your mark there as well. All right, so that is in respect to that. Let's look at, remember we still have some variable cost as well. What about labor? Right, direct labor. So in this regards, the cost of labor, all right? So it's given, of course, standard clock minutes per unit is 12, right? It all depends, but like I said, that's what I assume, all right? That's what I assume, that possibly that's what they did, but I'm not 100% sure to see if that is how they were marking, but in most circumstances, that's what they do. But anyways, let's leave it to the markers there, all right? And then let's look at direct labor. All right, so in regards to direct labor now, let's see what is the cost of labor. All right, so here it's taking us 12 minutes, and then there it's taking us 15. So what is the cost, the budgeted cost of labor? Right. So here we're told the standard idle time allowance for direct labor is 5%. The total budget direct labor cost for the 2023 financial year was 3,112, all right, million for basic and 2.1 million for lax, all right. So that's what we have in respect to direct labor. All right, but I think, did we not work something about labor? Let's just quickly see. It looks like we did not do much on labor. All right, so we just need to do the calculation now in regards to direct labor. So we can see now, in respect to labor now, all right, they budgeted to pay 3.12 million, all right, in respect to labor. And for basic, they budgeted to pay that. All right. And then we're clocking this much per unit. Right, so we could have worked it out. Right, so what we could have done in regards to labor, all right, since we are told here, we could have just divided by the total number of hours there. So we've said in regards to labor, all right, they're budgeted to pay 3.12 million of basic, all right, the labor cost. So we could have taken 3.12, all right, and then we divide by the total. Remember, we did the calculation of the labor cost per unit, all right? I think we did the calculation somewhere up there. So here we have 46051, all right? I think that is what we have in respect to labor there. Let me just quickly see something. It's taking us 12 minutes. Right? Did we use 12 minutes? Or here? So we could have divided with 52. All right. With the number of hours that is taking us per unit. So we have 52. All right. So we could have just divided by 52. All right. And then to give us what? So that 120 to about 52,000. Give us 60 there. All right. So in regards to labor, so we have 60 there. And then, so this is the cost, all right, per labor. All right. So 60 is the cost per labor. And then what do we have? We're taking the 60 rand per hour, but we're using 12 minutes per unit. So in this case, I think we should have just said times 12 out of 60. All right, so we just multiply by 12 over 60. All right, so it will give us 12 again. And then we do the same for lakhs. All right, so lakhs, we saw there, what is the cost of lakhs? It is 2.1. All right, divided by the hours that we have for lakhs. We did work it out somewhere as well. It's 35. So it will give us the cost per hour. And then we multiply by the number of hours which we spend. So here we spend for lakhs, we spend 15 minutes per unit. So 15, to convert it into hours, we take 15 divided by 60. All right, then we get the total there. I know it was a lot of work that was expected of you guys for 17 marks, but yeah, we can scratch through and get something. So this is what we could have done, right? And then we do the variable distribution cost. Remember, we have those variable distribution cost as well as the variable manufacturing cost. So variable distribution cost, how much was it? Remember, we did work it out earlier on. Yes, sir. So of course, we don't do negative marking in MAC, right? If you did not include something. So like in this case, this question was actually, we can say it was actually a long type of question. So sometimes they mark you, they give you principal marks to follow your calculation. As long as you present to say, this is my calculation, you'll find that sometimes for this calculation, maybe there's 2 marks or 3 marks. They might give you a mark for this, a mark for that, and then a mark for that. So you might get 2 out of 3, of course, depending on how the marker allocated it. All right. And then your variable cost, variable selling cost, we said is how much? Right, here we are, 2% of the selling price, right? So we told there is 2% of the selling price. So 2% of 65, right? So 2% of 65. Right, so that's the selling price per unit. Right, so 65 times 2%. So it gives us that 0.3. And then the other one, it was that one which we used that calculation. So it was how much? 2% of selling price. What is the selling price now of basic? We can just check it at the top, right? Remember, we worked it up. So it's 2% of 75. Right. So it can give us that, right? And then the last variable cost that we have is, which one did we not include? Variable manufacturing. So the risk on this question, all right, if you find someone who did well on this question, probably it costed them on the last questions. So my advice is, when you see a question like this, which requires lots of calculation, do the easy ones first. And then if times does not allow, you move on to the next question. All right, so it's important that you collect. It's one of those questions that I recommend you collect at least half, then you move on. All right. So the variable manufacturing cost, all right. So we have distribution. Where is variable manufacturing? Right. The actual budgeted variable manufacturing cost, 40 Rand per kg for both products. All right. So it's 40 Rand per kg. So how many kgs, right, or how many units do we have in regards to each product? All right. So variable manufacturing cost, so we told is 40 Rand per kg. Now, I want to determine how many units does each product need. So we can see this one need 500 grams, the other one needs 300 grams. So we take times 500 over 1,000, all right? And then for the other one, we take 40 times 300 over 1,000. So it then give us now our calc there. Right, so 40 times 500 divided by 1,000. So you take us there. All right, and then the other one is 14 times 300 divided by 1,000. Right. So this is what will give us our totals. All right. I'm sorry, guys. It was just a hectic calculation. Get a lot of things in it, but this is what was expected on us. All right. So we do that. All right, and then we net off the balances there. Oops, I made a mistake. Oh, I included everything. All right. Then we do the calcs there. All right. And then this is what will give us contribution. Right. I believe from here, you guys now know what to do. All right. You then do your contribution mix, weighted contribution. You do the calculation of weighted contribution and so forth. I believe you can pick it from here. All right. So you work weighted contribution. Right. And then, so after weighted contribution, you add all your contribution there. Then you divide fixed cost, divide by weighted contribution. That's what will give you your cost, what you call the break-even point. So you then say the sales units minus a break-even point. That's what will give you a margin of safety there. Of course, once you get your what is this? Your break-even, you also need to allocate it into products, right? Remember, after dividing by weighted contribution to give you break-even for all the products. So you need break-even per product. So you do the allocation there to get your break-even per unit. Per product, and then you minus the sales for that product minus the break-even. That's what will give you a margin of safety. Any questions, guys? All right, I know you guys, most of you guys are tired. I'm just gonna do the theory part of things, all right? And then I'll proceed with our paper another day. So what is the theory part? All right, so it says, with reference to HOD, hot D information in this scenario, identify and discuss 5 social, ethical, and environmental concerns that hot D's management should be aware of. Social and ethical concerns that the company should be aware of. All right, what did you guys have? Did anyone come up with something? Right, so can you see? So in respect to this, we just ran through the background information, right? So this is the company, consists of 2 divisions. The divisions are independent of each other, all right? And then let's see what drink producer. What drink producer sells 2 types of cocoa-based hot drinks, namely basic hot drink and hot chocolate. Cocoa powder, full cream, milk powder, artificial filler powders, and sugar are combined to produce Lux hot chocolate powder. So in this regard, what can you guys think of? Let's be practical. Let's look at Coke, all right? That soft drink. Yes, Leonor, 100%. So plastic container, pollution, 100%. But let's look at these ingredients. Think of Coke, think of Fanta, right? Those soft drink that we love most. Now, we can all agree that the taste of those soft drink is actually changing. Now we have Coke Zero, we have Fanta Zero and all that. What is happening? Now, it's believed that, I believe even some of you guys or some of us do not drink sugar. I take my sugar, of course, but some people don't take sugar. In that regard, what is happening? We can see now that we're moving in an environment whereby people are saying, want to be health conscious. So we're not drinking sugar. Do you guys see when I say engage your environment to the scenario? before you go anywhere, you can see now the soft drink is made up of sugar. Is it health conscious? So you write down the soft drink consists of sugar, all right, which actually causes diabetes and so forth, all right? Some people, of course. So in this case, this is a factor to look at, all right? And then we have 1 unit basic contains 500 grams of oat chocolate powder packaged in non-recyclable plastic container. Yes, I'm glad you already picked that up. Now, can you see you have non-recyclable plastic containers? What is going on in that? All right. Okay, we'll go there. Now, non-recyclable, it now means now that these containers, all right, they're actually what? You're polluting the environment. All right. If it's non-recyclable now, no one is going to care about it. You just throw it and then you pollute the environment. That's it. So it's not advisable. All right. And then Farah referred us to, can you see the other one is recyclable pouch, which is good. So let's see if Farah referred us to 1.18. What is happening there? All right. Let's see, sugar. She's mentioning about sugar. They use sugar, which causes obesity. All right. So that's a problem. All right. Can you see they're using filler powders? These filler made news headline recent for stunning growth in children. So those are the factors now that you're supposed to discuss. Right. So it's important that we look into all those aspects and then discuss those areas there. All right. Are you guys tired? Yes, no? Okay, other than the guys who wrote, right? The fresh guys, are you tired? All right, cool. So the reason I'm saying other than the guys who wrote is, so when you wrote an exam, you're fresh, so you're curious to see how did I do in the exam and all that. All right, so I want to avoid that thing. All right, the logic behind this exercise, it is meant for the guys who are yet to write. All right, I don't mean to say it in the other way to the guys who wrote. All right, like I said, the logic behind this is to learn. All right, the guys who wrote, yes, you did right. All right, I know you guys did well, but of course we have done just a small part of the question. All right, so don't overkill yourself over this. All right. Anyways, the exercise, all right, I think I'll just end the class here. All right, and then we'll finish our paper some other time. So the exercise behind this, right, was in regards to, I wanted to show you guys how do you approach the long questions, right? And also, I wanted to show you guys that do not overestimate MAC, all right? Do spend time working on MAC. And when I say time, I'm not referring to you auditing the memo, right? So sometimes we have that mindset whereby we sit down and then we just say yes, no to the memo. We're saying, sit down, look at answer the question as if you're in the exam. That way you prepare your mind as well to think through in the exam. So on the next class, all right, we're going to be looking at, so you guys said you never did process costing. So I'm going to do process costing with you guys, some questions there. And probably, all right, I hope time allows, we'll look also into transfer pricing, right? We'll look into transfer pricing, so some questions along those lines, right? But we'll look into time after your test, of course. We'll finish off this paper there. All right. Any questions before we close, guys?
Ian?
Yes, ma'am.
Just a quick question. That number 3, the setting a selling price, is that also the transfer pricing?
Which one? Which one? Number 3. Which one is number 3 now?
I3.
This one.
Yes, the third one.
This one, discuss the internal external fabric sheet consider when setting a selling price. So yeah, we can remember with transfer pricing, we consider, yes, we can, I think it's there as well, right? Whereby you're setting, when you're setting the minimum transfer pricing and the maximum transfer pricing, what factors do you need to consider? Yes, we can actually look into it on that angle as well. All right, we can actually, yes, it is part of transfer pricing. You know, so it's the theory part of transfer pricing, but here it was more of, I think it was more of general knowledge, though, right? Because usually when you're setting internal prices, we think of co-congruence, right? The price should be fair between the divisions. So it's not 100% into transfer pricing, because transfer pricing is about setting the price within the divisions in an organization. But it was more of general knowledge. What factors do you consider when you're setting the price to sell a product? But anyways, we'll look into some of the theory there to see what is going on there. All right. Any questions, guys?
Yes, just the last one. Draft a memorandum. What can you just give a brief explanation about the format, please?
The format for,
Where they say draft a memorandum.
where is that? Oh yeah.
Also there.
Oh, you mean for memorandum? Oh, so memorandum. All right, so it's a memo. So you say to, all right, and then from. So to, in this case, let's see this question. They're saying draft a memorandum to the management of CBN. So what do? You draft it to management of, to management of CBN. From. Now, sometimes in the question, they tell you who you are, all right? But if they don't, you can just give yourself a title. So you can say UNISA student, all right? Or you can say financial advisor, whatever that you want to call yourself. And then you write your debt. What is the debt? 3 June 2023. And then why are you writing this? All right, you need to address. So you're looking at quantitative aspects, all right, on whether to further process the cocoa bid. So you look at, remember the memorandum is addressing all this, all right? So you're looking at evaluation of cocoa bean, all right? Evaluation of so you just, what are you trying to address? That is what you present there. It's not restricted. It's more like you at work. Picture yourself, all right? Somebody, they're looking for working papers at work, all right? So what do you write there as a subject? So you're telling them, okay, these are the working papers. So they have to understand the completeness, working papers on revenue, all right? So that is your subject, saying, okay, telling them that, okay, this email is in response to your completeness working papers on revenue, or whatever that you want to be addressed, all right? So you present it there, and then you write down now your stories. You're doing the starting that, and so memorandum, and then email. Sometimes I've seen they draft an email. So email too. It's from where? UNISA student at gmail.com. Right? You write down the email address. Sorry, I'm just putting in here. From who? Avoid writing your name, of course. So you can write, oh, actually I did it vice versa. To, here's coming from. So this is UNISA student, right? And then to, it's going to who? Management at CBN at maybe .co.za. If it's not given, sometimes they give you the emails. right? And then you write your debt, right? So what is your debt? Region, right? So you just write your debt. And then you write your subject. What is the subject there? Evaluation of? See that. So you do that and then you need one. So that is basically how you go about it. So there was a question, what is the source mix? So source mix was not difficult. Remember, we have already done that. So this is your source mix. All right. So you could have done, don't stress much about the source mix. So you could have just said 26 divided by, so you could have said divided by 40. All right. You can have that. Or alternatively, all right, what someone could have done. So it will be something like that. All right. So you could have worked it out like that. All right. So this would be your source mix. All right. You could have set it like that. 0.65 as to 35. All right. Or someone could have worked as 26 as to 140. Nothing to stress much about. So remember, these are the units sold. So that's your mix ratio there. All right. So basically, that's how you could have done in regards to the question. Okay, cool guys. Keep working, guys. We'll definitely get there. All right, definitely get there. Have a lovely weekend to the guys who are done. The rest, I'll see you guys later. Right. Bye, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. Bye.
Bye, Ian.
Thanks, bye.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.
All right. Cheers. Bye.